In today's video, I'm going to be answering an email that I received. I'm going to read the email and then do the best that I can to give this person some advice. So the email says, "Dear Mr. Kaiju, hope this mail finds you well. I am reaching out to you after having come across your video highlighting the requirements of a mathematics major through community college. I am writing to you as I need some advice. Presently, I am enrolled in a BA math course at Southern New Hampshire University that I'm taking online, though I am presently in India. Primary reason I enrolled in this class this course has to do with the fact that I always liked mathematics and felt that I should take it up sometime in the future, and hence this course. Though at present I am working as a teacher and academic, doing some research in the field of fungal genetics. In the future, I hope to venture into either mathematics education or some form of applied mathematics, and is wondering if there is some advice you may have regarding what kind of steps I can take. So, for example, I would like to take up to math education in the future. Then how do I go about doing this? As I already have a degree, I already have some degree of teaching experience. How can I convert this into an area associated with math education?" And then that's about it for that. So this is there's a little bit more to the email, but I'll get to that at the end. So this is a really heavy question. So it almost kind of sounds like they're in this moment of, do I go into math education or do I go into applied mathematics? So I want to take a look at this question in a couple different steps. I want to take a look at the lifestyle and the education needed for both of those routes. I am not going to talk about the money that you may make in either of these fields. Money earned and happiness is a completely personal preference. For me, I would rather do something that I love doing and make a living, put a roof over my head, support my family, rather than do a job that I don't like and make more money than I even need. Like, that's just me. So I'm not going to get into the money side of it. I'm going to pretend like no matter what career you do, you're going to make the exact same amount of money as someone else. Like, let's just take money out of the equation. So I'm going to take a look at just the lifestyle that you're going to live in these two different fields of math, and then the education that you may need in order to get to these fields. And it is daylight out, so sorry, there's a little bit of a glare out of the window there, and I couldn't really avoid that. So first of all, lifestyle. In math education and applied math. I'm going to talk about applied math first. So applied math, you are probably going to work in some sort of office. If you're doing research, you may work in like a science facility, maybe like a lab. Maybe you get a job where you're working remote. So that's something that you want to keep in mind, that, all right, the lifestyle is going to be pretty solo. It's going to be a pretty quiet office setting. Maybe you like to work remote. For me, I would not want a job working remote from home every single day. I like interacting with people. I like being somewhere. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, do you want remote work or do you want to work in an office? I went down this path a little bit early on in my education of, do I want to be a teacher or do I want to work in an applied math field? Applied math, you're working in an office. So I did work in an office with my math degree for quite some time. And for me, my own personal lifestyle choice, like, this was not for me. Working in an office was not for me. And I'll give you an example of what happened one day. We were sitting in the office working, and someone came in and told us that we had to move our cars because they were going to repave the parking lot. The uproar that happened from just a simple request of moving our cars across the street. Like, one person I remember saying, like, "Oh, like, I knew this was going to be a day. Like, I knew this was going to be a crazy day." And it's like, we're just moving our cars across the street. Like, let's relax. Like, that was the moment I knew that, like, this office life isn't for me. Like, I'm going to go back into education. So it's a huge lifestyle choice. Like, do you want to work in an office every single day? And not even just that, but the hours. You might find a job where you're going to work 50 weeks a year and only get 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off and not have a lot of time off, and you're working 9 to 5 every single day. And if that's what you want, like, that's fine. Like, if that's a happy life for you, then by all means, like, that is the path that you should probably follow down. But let's now talk about math education. So on the complete opposite side of that, education is pretty chaotic at times. You're doing something different hour to hour. Like, you might have a class for 1 hour, and then the next hour you're going to have a completely different class, teaching a completely different subject with completely new students. Day to day is different. If you're teaching college, you're going to teach a different schedule on Mondays compared to Tuesdays, and so on. You're going to get new classes every semester, every year, brand new students coming through the door, new textbooks. Maybe you haven't taught a class and they give you a brand new class that you have to teach, or maybe you're revamping. Like, there's just constant changes. And yeah, like, it's a lot more fast paced and a lot more change from moment to moment than working in an office. So if that's too much for you, like if that lifestyle is like, that's too much stress, then like, yeah, maybe a slower office life would be a little bit better. But I like the change when I'm teaching. I like teaching one thing and then the next day I'm teaching completely something different, or from hour to hour, my morning is different than my afternoon. Like, I like that change. I like seeing brand new students every once in a while. I like interacting with the students and being a teacher. Like, I like that lifestyle of doing that. So that's my own personal preference. I did do this. I went into the office world and worked in an office for a while. Not very long. Like total, like 2 years probably total. And the job was good. Nothing really wrong with the job. Just wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to live. So that's a huge factor you want to keep in mind. And going back to the money, this lifestyle of like, oh, like I'm very happy doing education. I'm very happy going to schools and interacting with students and teaching classes, preparing lessons, and doing those kind of things. Like, that's enjoyment for me. Like, and as long as it supports me and my family, then I'm pretty good here. And another thing too, with time off, I mentioned applied math. You might get 2 or 3 weeks off a year with like holidays and stuff. Like education, you're going to get school schedule. You're going to get summers off, winter break, spring break. Yeah, you're going to be doing some work. You could teach summer classes, but it's a change. It's something different. Like, all right, I have an endpoint in the middle of May. Like, that's the end of the semester. And then I get this time, and then I have to prepare summer class. And then like we start fall. Like, there's a change. And I remember when I talked to somebody before I went into the office world, and she flat out told me, she's like, I like teaching because I like the end. I like ending when in May, and then I like beginning again. I like ending chapters. I like ending sections. Like, she explained it to me in a way like, I like the end and then start again of teaching, where office work, it's just perpetual. It just keeps going. So that's lifestyle. That's a huge factor that you want to keep in mind. Education needed. So this is another one. So you mentioned that you're already teaching and you're working on your bachelor's. So a huge decision. So let's say you do go down the math education route, and I'm going to talk about applied math too, but I'm going to talk about math education first. Let's say you do go down the education route where you're like, I want to be a teacher for my life here. What grade do you want to teach? You mentioned that you're in India. I don't know the teaching requirements in India. I don't know if you plan on working in India. I'm not sure about that side of it, but if you are going to teach in India, you got to know the requirements. Like here in the US, in order to teach high school, or even like 6 through 12 secondary, you have to have a math degree. Also, you have to have a teaching degree. So you have to, like, I double majored in mathematics and secondary education. Sometimes you can major in math, minor in secondary ed, or some people even to teach junior high, you can just get like an elementary with a focus in math. Like, there's ways around it, but you probably want to just finish up that math degree. And if you want to teach high school, you do have to get a bachelor's in secondary ed. So that's something to keep in mind, that you do need to do that additional requirements to teach high school certified. If you want to teach college, you do not need to be teaching certified. You do need a master's though in math. At least most states in the US, you need a master's. You could teach developmental with just a bachelor's, but even that, like, that's really, really, really rare to come by, like a full-time developmental teaching position, or even like a GED full-time teaching position. Like, that's very, very rare. I wouldn't shoot for that, but I guess you could get a job with just a bachelor. So you'd probably want to just go get the master's in order to teach college. I got a master's in math / like math education. It was kind of like a double master's where I had enough credits in pure math to qualify for me as a teaching college. So that's what you want to keep in mind, that if you do want to teach college, your education route is going to go a little bit further. Which now, talking about applied math, you can get some pretty good jobs with just a bachelor's in math. You mentioned that you're getting a BA in math, so that's a bachelor's of arts. I don't know if you just use the BA as just like, I'm getting a bachelor's, but you might want to look into getting a BS, Bachelor's in Sciences of Mathematics, because then I think some applied math jobs will look for a BS rather than a BA. With education, not really the biggest deal in the world, but I think office jobs are going to be a little bit more serious on what type of math degree you have, especially with like a master's. Do you have a master's in MS or an MA? Again, education really doesn't focus too much onto that. Like some schools will, but these jobs, like the applied math jobs, like you might want to look into that. But you can get some good jobs with just a bachelor's in applied math and work your way up the ladder. Some jobs may require a master's, so that's something else. So what I would do if you are going to go down the office route, if you're going to work in applied math and do some sort of office work or work in a lab or research or whatever you're going to do, look at jobs that you might be interested in now. Like, no, you won't be qualified for them just yet, but look into jobs and see what they're asking. Like, do they want their applicants to have master's degrees in what specifically? Do they want actuarial science? Maybe you're going to be an actuary. That's a really great field, by the way. Maybe they want something. I don't know. Maybe they want chemistry or physics or whatever. And is it a master's? Is it a PhD? That's another thing too. Do you need a PhD? A lot of research positions are probably going to want PhDs at some point. Some colleges, like universities in the US, require PhDs to teach full-time. So that's something else to keep in mind, that if you want to work in a university, you're going to need a PhD in math or math education or something. So another education factor. So you got to ask yourself, like, do I have the time right now to extend my education another 3-4 years in order to get a university position or that top tier position at a research facility that I want? That's a huge factor. So I'm trying to map out all of the potential routes here that could happen with lifestyle of working in an office compared to school, and then the education that you may need. And I think it's right now in your current situation, like, this is probably going to be your main focus of like, what realistically can you do with your education for as long as you're going to be in school. And right now you're getting your bachelor's, which is a great first step, but what's next? Like, do you just have time to get your bachelor's, or do you have some time to get a master's, and then see what doors can that possibly open up? But this is a great question, and I really hope that I'm giving you some solid advice here. You asked the question about, are there any groups or anything on, what did you say, community that I could be a part of, actively participate in? Are there groups on LinkedIn that address some of these questions? I'm not really in on LinkedIn or anything. The only thing I know, there's like a math group on LinkedIn that I joined at some point. It's just like, it's a lot of people. I don't know, that might be something that you want to read into, but just different YouTube channels are probably going to be your best bet in terms of communities, and just doing your own personal research and learning about like what is life like as a teacher, or life like in applied mathematics. And hopefully that will answer your question. So thanks again for emailing in. This is a really good question, and good luck with the rest of your education.